Living nomadically.
Hey, Bigger Pockets family. Welcome to our multifamily Q&A. We have a special guest here today that we'll introduce here in 1 minute, but this is part of the Tribe of Multifamily Mentor Show that myself and my co-host and partner, Terrence Doyle, get to launch. So the name sums it up. We are going to talk about multifamily investing, all aspects of it, and we're going to talk about mentorship and the impact we've all had from mentors, good and bad, and how now a lot of our guests are being great mentors to other people. And we can use the power of video to go out there and extract our guest knowledge and put it out there into all of our audiences live. So the whole point of this Q&A is to bring in some questions. So please start filling those in the comments section. We'll be monitoring those. And then next Thursday, we got Rod Cleef, April 1st at 2 p.m. April 6th, we got Sterling White and Hunter Thompson on April 8th. So we got some great guests coming up. And then the show officially launches the last week of April. So lots of great stuff. Terrence, how are you, man?
It's actually chilly out, Chris. It was 80 degrees yesterday. It felt amazing. I woke up to 3 or 4 inches of snow in my car. So that was a little disappointing. But our guest here is going to breathe some life and give us some energy. Maureen Miles. She is based out of Nashville right now.
Yep, between Connecticut and Nashville.
Nashville, owns in Indiana and Georgia, really specializes in tertiary markets. She owns over 1,800 doors, has raised over $100 million since 2014, and has an incredible story from leaving her job as an IT engineer in 2013, having a bunch of roller coaster false starts in 2013, getting her first deal done in 2014. And it's been incredible getting to know you, hearing your story. I've been inspired, and I think the audience is really, really going to love what you have to say. So let's kick it off. The first question that we had from the audience is, you quit your job in 2013. You had young children. You're a mother. You're working full time, and you wanted to pursue this real estate thing. What was your mindset, and how did you get the courage to do that?
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me here too, by the way. It's awesome to be here. Great to meet you guys and to get to know you guys too. But yeah, in 2013, they had offered a package for work, and I had been building up kind of a smaller portfolio of duplexes and triplexes in Connecticut at the time. And I just kind of hit this wall I couldn't put more time into it. And to get more units, we were renovating them ourselves. We were renting them out ourselves. So we were putting a lot of effort into it. I was in charge of Asia for what I did. So I used to work these kind of weird hours. So during the day, I would do my real estate about 3 or 4 o'clock, grab a shower, change into business clothes to turn into a pumpkin, go to work. And so work till 1 or 2 in the morning. So that was my life for a few years. But then I just hit this wall at about 30 units doing it myself. And with my family, everybody helped too. But I just hit this wall where I couldn't see how I can get more units in order to gain more cash flow to be able to replace my income. And I went through a bunch of back surgeries. I have a fusion now, which fixed it, but I was in a rough spot. I was just, like I said, just kind of hit a wall. I was burned out at work. I saw the opportunity, but I didn't feel like I could really do any larger projects in states away from where I lived without leaving my job. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, they offered that. I went home to my husband and I said, hey, they gave this offer at work. I got 6 months of pay with health insurance for 6 months, which was awesome. I figured this is my opportunity. And I asked my husband, I'm like, are you willing to live in one of the multifamilies if I can't get this going quick enough? And I know you said I had little kids. My youngest son was just ready to graduate high school. So they were kind of bigger at that point. And I figured, okay, we wouldn't lose the house before he graduated from school. So I knew we'd be okay.
At least have the house so the kids get out of high school.
Yeah. I said, the good thing about being in this business is you'll never be homeless, right? Because you have lots of multifamily units all over. But yeah, that was it. And it was a leap off the bridge. It was terrifying. It was, but I know my back's against the wall. I usually can pull through. I don't fail when I need to perform. So
yeah, that's an incredible story. And we're going to get into the full length version of that on the interview coming up after the Q&A. And it's a fascinating story. So the second question the audience had was, you started in 2006, you bought your first investment property. It was a duplex. So walk us through how you found it, how you funded it, how long had you been looking, at that point?
Yeah. So we had been looking, I'd say for probably maybe 6 months or a year. I actually found it in like this weird little back of a newspaper thing, like a Rare Reminder or like Craigslist kind of thing they had at the time, but it was in this like physical newspaper that was like free. And it said for sale by owner duplex. And I looked at them like, ooh, this actually like kind of makes sense. Cause I believe, you know, you get to know your market and then you have to like keep looking at each deal, because then when something does pop up, you just know it's a deal instantly, right? Because you're familiar with the market. So that's what we had done. And literally we made the contract at a Starbucks with the owner on the back of a napkin, like that classic story. I don't have that napkin. People said, do you still have it? I'm like, no, but it was.
It'd be great to frame.
Yeah.
When your first deal was the back the napkin contract?
It was.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
The two family, like, okay, when do you want to close by? I used to be a real estate agent, like back when I was in my early 20s. So I knew there was like 5 parts of a contract. Needed a price, a date, terms, and like just basic things, you know. So we just did on that easiest closing ever. They were good, but I remember my attorney saying, "Are you joking right now?"
Did you bring that to like the closing table?
I did. I'm like, "Here's the terms." Well, not the closing table, but to my attorney.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, here you go. So.
And what? How much? What was the purchase price? How much cash did you have to bring? How'd you get the cash?
I think we only had to put like 12 grand down at the time, and it was like maybe 179, so 180,000 is what we bought it for. But it was a time when a lot of deals you were just signing.
Yeah, back in the day, pre-recession, you could get 100%, even more than 100% financing. So you guys brought 12,000 down, and you and your husband had just been saving for a while.
Yeah, we had just had it kind of saved up for that, which was a lot of money. Right. I mean, that was like everything. So it was, you know,
so it was still a pretty big leap of faith.
Oh, it was.
But you just believed in it enough. The numbers made sense.
Yeah.
And that was your first duplex.
Yeah, first duplex. Still own it, actually. It's for sale right now.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Maybe we can put the details in there. Maybe we'll get you a buyer here.
Yeah. Is there a Bigger Pockets discount code to take some price off of that?
Sure. Should give it away. Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. No, it's awesome though.
So first off, you got quite the fan club here in the comments, Maureen. We got lots of people.
Guys.
We got Maureen as a rock star. We got We Love You, Maureen. We got You're on Fire.
Aww.
This girl's absolutely amazing.
Yes.
Aw, that's awesome.
So
we've never had this many compliments for anybody. This is pretty impressive.
I try to help out people.
Feeling really well loved right now.
This is great.
I feel lots of love.
We're getting virtual hugs from all over YouTube.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
that's cool.
Oh, I just saw a great question here from Caitlin. Says, what's it like in single family versus multifamily? And this is, we're talking about this. I think my interpretation is like, from like the context of scaling. Hey, you bought you bought a duplex, you bought another duplex, and you said you got to like 30 doors on the smaller plexes, and then you hit a ceiling. So going from the small stuff to the big stuff, just kind of where the main differences there from mechanics of it to mindset. And then if you go back in time again, would you do the same thing or would you do a different path? Start small, go big, or and that's a very loaded question there. We get this all the time.
There's a lot. We could talk about that the whole time if you want. No, I'm just kidding. So there is so from small to larger, that is definitely a mind shift. Like what I was doing is I got so used to, I was buying things before they hit the market. I was like that person that would steal the deal before it'd post for 30 seconds online and be under contract. I was the person stealing those deals.
You were that lady.
I was that lady. Yes. Just found out the way everything worked and got there first. Right. So there were these smaller deals when we were doing some single family flips too at the time. So, these little deals would make anywhere between like 20, 40 grand, things like that. And so they're kind of addictive. They're kind of hard to, get away from. So as I'm trying to take down these larger properties that are worth millions, right? These little deals kept coming up. And of course, that's my comfort zone now, because that's what I'm familiar with. I was working with those the last, 6 years before that. And so every time they came up, I kept like getting sidetracked and would go back to kind of what was comfortable. Right. So I realized I was doing that. And I just once I realized I was doing that, I actually called my different contacts that would feed me the deals. And I'd say, don't call me for 60 days. I'm working on something else. Because I couldn't resist them when they would come my way. I just couldn't. And then another thing I did is I reached out to some of my competitors and I said, listen, if I do get a deal, do you want them? And I did. I got a really good deal at one point in Connecticut, and I just sent it to somebody that I used to compete against. I'm like, just take it because I don't want. She's like, well, what do you want? I said, if it works out, give me $1,000. And I actually was getting like with the next 6 or 8 months, I was getting these little $1,000 checks in the mail for deals that I had pushed off, and I didn't know if they closed on them or not. I didn't track them, but they sent me back the $1,000 that we agreed to, which was kind of cool. So
And that seems like that's a very low assignment fee.
oh yeah, and
Or
it wasn't
deal
about the
finder
money.
fee.
This
I
is back
wanted
in
it.
2006, 7.
Yeah, and it wasn't for an
Yeah.
assignment fee.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't working it like
It's like
that.
a
I was more
referral.
like
Okay.
get this
Yeah.
thing out of my
Yeah.
line of
It
sight.
was a distraction at that point.
Totally,
Right? I love that.
totally.
So you actually were telling, so let's call them like wholesalers and brokers of single family side.
Yeah.
You would tell them, don't call me for
Yeah,
60,
don't
90
call me
days because I'm
anymore.
working on something else.
Yeah, I
Because
had
you didn't
to.
even want the distraction.
Yeah, because I was
I
just
love
I
that,
kept
yeah.
going back to the small stuff.
Because it was comfortable because you knew you could execute and you knew you could make a couple bucks on it and it was easy.
But I was after
Yeah.
the big
Yeah,
picture thing,
larger,
at
yeah.
that point, especially once I left my job. Like it was a scary time. I was doing all kinds of weird things. I was helping a cousin mine. He had a roofing company. Like I learned how to like be HAG certified to mark out hailstorms and so like I was doing all kinds of stuff. But we get sidetracked when things are hard that we're trying to accomplish. We just have to be really aware of that. So like we go to our comfortable place.
Right.
And so like pretty soon I was out of my job for a few months and I wasn't really making much progression, I realized, because I was sidetracked of just making these little couple $1,000s here and there to kind of survive for a while, right?
That's right. Yeah, I think Rod Khalif, your friend, who will be here next week on the show,
This
likes
week.
to say he'll be here this week.
Thursday.
Yeah, time's flying by. Rod Khalif will be here this Thursday, and he likes to say, focus is power.
Yeah.
Focus is power. And I think you're a living testament to that, telling those brokers that were giving you the opportunity to stop calling you so you could focus on something larger. So that's a great story. We have Maureen Miles here, the tribe of multifamily mentors. She's got a ton of like undiscovered gifts. Last night at dinner, she's telling us how she knows how to wire like run electrical in a house, in an apartment, understands roofing now that we're finding out. So really she's good with her hands, understands construction, has the gift of having Rain Man like math skills. We also talked about that last night. So any questions regarding raising capital, dealing with investors, focusing on larger deals and construction, I think construction better than most people in this space. I mean, because you've personally done it yourself, that you can swing a hammer. Most people that are operating larger syndications, I mean, they know how to maybe hire a GC and ask those right questions, but they can't actually walk into an apartment building and know how the sausage is made, how drywall gets hung, how the trim needs to go, the outlet, everything. And I was really impressed with that you know how to raise the money, underwrite the deal, and also do the construction on site. And that's incredible.
On our full interview podcast, we were going through a very detailed T12 for like 280 units.
280 units.
280 units. So if you want, and she's also can crunch numbers, as Taryn said, but we're going to crunch a lot of numbers here the next hour. And that show will be published in a month or two.
Yeah.
So, we got some great questions here. So, Rary001 says, what advice can you give someone working a W-2 job but wants to jump into multifamily real estate? Do you have any mindset tips?
Yeah, one of the things that got me through that first deal, like I couldn't sleep the first few nights, that first deal. And, some people come up to me and they said, I only have 6 units or 12 units. But I'm like, man, that is incredible.
Yeah.
Because it's that first deal that's the hardest one. So whatever size you're comfortable with, like do it. If it's a 2-family, if it's a single family you want to rent out, whatever you're good, just go after it and understand it. And so for me, I'm always thinking, what's the worst case scenario, right? If the thing burns down, I have insurance. If a tenant trashes it, we have the skills to fix it. What are they going to do? Hurt the sheetrock? Like if somebody falls and tries to sue us, we have insurance for that. Like, so I was just running through like worst case scenarios and I'm like, okay, like we can handle this stuff. And it is scary, but I tell people too, nobody's born knowing this stuff. So we all have to give ourselves a break when we don't know it. But that's why it's so important to tune into like what you guys are doing now. And that's why I'm here, just to help you. It's so great to get the word out on it. This is life-changing to figure this out, like life-changing. So I would say if you're in your W-2 job, find something. There's a couple options. You could find a partner that is in another market that you like to do, maybe somebody more experienced. If you know what you're good at, are you good at finding deals? Can you raise money? Do you have money? I deal with a lot of doctors and like IT guys that have funds, but they don't have the time to dedicate. So if you have somebody that you can team up with to dedicate time, it's hard to do yourself, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
It's definitely a team sport.
It definitely
multifamily,
is.
Even real estate, I think is a team sport. Because even if you're doing single family, you have to be able to get a broker that is going to bring you deals. You have to be able to understand property management if you're going to be, doing a single family rental.
Yeah.
You have to understand construction, have a GC or some contractors. I mean, you definitely, regardless of what aspect of real estate or how large or small, it is a team sport. You have to know how to work with people, motivate them, align interest, right? I mean, you have to be able to build a team and have that kind of perspective.
Yeah,
exactly what you're saying.
Definitely. And you have to, your team is so important too,
Right.
because they will make or break you, and the wrong partnership will just, like, they can really destroy your chances of getting ahead in this if you have the wrong partner in the beginning. Like, so you want to make sure you're aligned with your partner too, as far as how they treat the investors, how they treat, staff, what their goals are, that kind of thing. That's so important.
So someone that's in a W-2 job, because I think there's a lot of people probably listening and they're like, man, I'd love to be Maureen. They want to step out, they want to find a partner. What are like 2 or 3 things you could give the audience of like how to find your partner and some advice on structuring that? Because I know you had some partnerships that didn't go well, and then you had some that did go really well, and you're in some really good structures now. What advice can you give people that are looking to do that thing? Because I think that's great advice. Like, you want to get out of your W-2, find a partner. Okay, what's some advice on finding the right partner and how to structure that?
Yeah, sometimes you don't want too many partners. I see some people make that mistake, where, if there's 5 people all together, you have great fun on the weekends drinking beer or whatever, but they're not so good in business if everybody has the same skill set, right? That's one issue I see with partnerships. One piece of advice I do say is, if you do find a partner that you think you want to work with, come in as a separate LLC, and then, join, so that it's easier to kind of separate if you decide that going down the road, maybe that's not the right partner, right? And then I would say, make sure you get to know those people pretty well, know all the deals they've been in, understand other partners maybe they worked with, talk to investors they've had if you're going that level where you're syndicating. And then, go out to dinner. Like, I remember I almost joined partner with these 2 brothers, and
the Property Brothers?
No, they
That'd
weren't.
be cool to partner with.
But they were doing weird stuff. Like, they would order expensive wine and want to split the bill, and then they wouldn't order wine and make sure everybody paid their own bill. Like, they were doing and then some people would like chew out the waitress because, like, I asked for a fork and light her up. I'm like, I don't want to work with that dude. Like, so get to know them, go out with them, have a couple drinks with them, see how they are under stress, make sure that's somebody that you want to deal with. And I mean, it should be, this is really a fun business. I said, I love this business. Even when it sucks, it's still fun. Like, I still enjoy it. And that's what I think you need to have, that passion in this business if you want to do it. It can't just be about the dollar at the end. I mean, we all need money to survive, but I think if you chase that dollar, it runs away from you, is my theory.
Ooh,
Totally
that's
agree,
a great phrase, and it's true. So I got a really good question here that leads into a bigger thing that actually we're going to ask you probably later today. But Dave B says, Maureen is truly amazing. When is she writing her book? So
I don't know, Dave B. Thank you.
Well, we definitely want you to have a chapter in our book. It's going to be called The Tribe of Multifamily Mentors. We're going to ask a bunch of different operators around the country the same questions, and it's going to be crowdsourced. And, just not to put you on the spot, but we'd love for you to have a chapter in the book. So maybe, Dave, you can stay tuned for that.
Yeah, thank you. No, happy to be part of it and help. I really enjoy. I said, when I started on this journey, I didn't know it was possible to do what I do now. I didn't know I didn't know people owned large complexes like that, or that, like, you can kind of manage like single individuals. Really didn't know that this was even possible. And with syndication, it's actually much easier than the smaller stuff, because you have a team that shows up every day. They're responsible for that property. They own that property. They get ownership, your maintenance guys, your managers. And, when you kind of get like the synergy right on a property with the right team working together, it's like magical. And, they're every day, that's their goal, their job. That's what they get up for in the morning, as opposed to running around with a bunch of duplexes and, 3 families and trying to, herd cats basically, and worrying about all those different roofs and all those different tenants. I mean, we used to collect rent, like go physically get rent, and so just having everything on a more systematized scale, where you have 250 doors in one location with a team showing up, it's life-changing, for the operator.
Yeah.
So Robert asked, how did you get funding for real estate investing when you left your W-2 job?
Okay.
And I mean, to maybe parse that, question, there's funding from the banks and funding from investors. Yeah.
So that's another really big difference with the smaller properties. So a good story. So I had a 4-family in Connecticut that I was looking to refinance. I had just left my job. Well, I shouldn't say just, maybe I was probably about 2 years into it. This was our 3rd deal I was closing. We were buying a $15.25 million deal in Clarkston, Georgia at the time. And at the same time, I had a 4-family in Connecticut that we had bought for about $80,000. I think we put 50 in, so we were in it for $130, and we were trying to refi it for $230, and it was probably worth about $300,000 at the time. So I was going through that refi process as I'm purchasing this $15 million. How many units was that? 250 unit or 242 unit property. So these are the things that are going on at the same time. The $15 million property, no issues at all. Smooth sailed right through. This 4-family property was so difficult for $230,000 refi that we ended up just selling it because I didn't have W-2. Because I didn't have the W-2 income. The smaller banks don't know what to do with us, right? But on these larger properties, and I'm not sure if it's 50 units and above or really where they look at just the asset, but they look at the asset and the sponsorship. So the sponsorship, they look at your operations, your net worth, and your liquidity. So, but they take all the GP partners together. So at the time, I partnered with someone that had the funds for earnest money and liquidity, but didn't have the operations experience. So because of what I did with my smaller multifamilies, I had the operations experience. Now they credited me with 8 years of experience because I ran these smaller ones myself. So I was quite valuable to the team. So even though I didn't have the money to start, I was able to team up and provide value. So anyway, to answer your question with the W-2, it's hard. I mean, unless you have like a big chunk of cash sitting there and you're doing it and you have a big deposit in the bank, sometimes they'll work with you a little different, but I didn't have that. I tell people my first deal, I remember my partner who put up the funds, the earnest money, everything. I remember him asking me, he's like, "Hey, can you pay the video guy?" It was $750. I'm like, how am I going to tell this guy? I literally didn't have $750 video guy. So, wow. And I scraped it up from somewhere, but I didn't have it. So you don't need a bunch of money to get started in the bigger stuff. And in hindsight, it's easier, but I really learned how to do this by working with the smaller, buildings and things like that.
Yeah. Cause you learned construction by doing it yourself. Mm-hmm. You learned property management, working on duplexes, fourplexes. I think you said a couple 10plexes. So you learned it and really refined your skills and knew how to deal with tenants, the maintenance, collecting rent, evictions, all these valuable skill sets like that we were talking about earlier. A lot of operators have never actually physically done it. They've read it in a book. They've heard people talk about it on podcasts. They've never actually done it. And that's insanely valuable. And I think the hardest part of owning real estate is the management. And so the fact that you knew how to do that is invaluable because there's a ton of money out there, but people that actually know how to operate a property and turn it around and stabilize it. I mean, those are the skill sets that are really, really hard to find.
Yeah, that's where a lot of leakages in these larger commercial properties. We were looking to buy a property and they're telling us, the capital spent, and they spent an outrageous amount of money on replacing all the breaker boxes. And I'm like, it's like a 1988 property. Why would you do that? Why did he have to replace that? And he's like, I don't know. The contractor told me to. I'm like, so this dude wasted $400,000 on replacing all the electrical panels for nothing.
Totally unnecessary. Yeah.
Right. So, and you don't have to know the skill. So don't think you're not, but have somebody on your team. A lot of people have a brother-in-law that's into it, or just somebody that you can refer to.
That's
or
an
maybe
expert in that.
Pull in. Yeah. Somebody you can trust too, because that is one of them. Like I said, on that job that we discussed here, this project, went through 4 GCs on that because it's just so many of them are full.
It's hard to find.
Crap.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's really well said. I totally agree. What else we got, Chris?
So we got time for, I think, another question or two. Melissa says, how can we land properties with all the competition from offers right now? How can we stand out and land a deal, especially without a ton of extra cash to offer far above asking?
I mean, sometimes the best deal is the one you don't do, is what I got. So, back when we were buying the smaller properties, there was one particular property I went really hard after, and it was a good deal. There were 15 offers, and, I hit my max number, and I said, no more. You kind of have to watch the emotional side of that, right? So I said, no more. And then somebody bid, I think it was $25,000 over. This was just a duplex in Connecticut, but, 4 years later, I was able to buy that same property for $60,000 as opposed to the 180 I had bid because it went through foreclosure because they bought too much. So you always have to remember your fundamentals, right? On does it cash flow? And I think some people get, they start buying on appreciation. I mean, if you're loaded and you want to buy in Miami Beach or you want to have something in LA, like, oh, great. That's, you want to have a 4 cap, but we're competing against people, sometimes international money. All they want to do is park funds. Like, they're not looking to give investors a return. So it's just a different dynamic and a different, focus. So we can't really compete against people like that. Like, there's always deals in your own backyard, staying tuned. There's always deals out there to find, but you have to just stick to your guns. Yeah.
I think that's really good advice. Sometimes the best deals you do are the deals you don't do. I think that's phenomenal. Maybe touch on, what you've been able to do in tertiary markets, because I do think that, we live in Denver. We do a bunch of deals in Denver. It's really hot. You're living in Nashville now, super hot. Dallas, Austin. There's like 6 or 7 markets where everyone's trying to chase deals because they're on all the reports and it's just kind of like the trendy place to buy. But you've been able to buy in some markets that a lot of people don't talk about. And I do think that there is a lot of value still there because it's not sexy and trendy. And a lot of institutional capital isn't approved to go there, right? Because the institutions are like, you know what, we just want to be safe and we want to protect the downside. But you've been able to discover some incredible value in some smaller markets. And that, I think, could be a great place for people to find maybe less competition and some real value.
Absolutely. I mean, you look into just something with growth. A lot of the tertiary markets too, they don't have the huge swings like you see in some of the main markets, right? And I remember, like, when I first started buying in Atlanta, people are like, why on earth would you buy in Atlanta? I'm like, just wait for it. Like, I came down, I saw the cranes, I saw, it was the last major market to come out of the recession. So it was a good place to buy at the time. And what happened is just our cash flow is getting smaller and smaller. So we have a lot of retired investors too. So we're really cash flow orientated, not for every project, but for most of them. And we just weren't finding that in Atlanta anymore. And some of the other markets we were looking in. So we started going into other markets. What happened is when I exited my first partnership, I brought in, I had just hired an acquisitions guy and ended up teaming up with him. And when we again exiting my first partnership, I'm like, okay, we either going to shrink or we have to grow, like one or the two. And so I really kind of had some soul searching to do, decided to go for it, continue to grow. And so we actually we got in a car and like hit the road for 3 weeks looking for the next market. There were a lot. I mean, Columbus, Ohio was a good market, and I probably should have been more aggressive there. But yeah, we settled in a couple little markets that are just outside the major markets, and they produce cash flow day one. And that was just awesome. I mean, we were buying, something that would produce maybe $700 or $800 a month rent for, in the 45 a door or something. So just those dynamics, would work, just that ratio.
Yeah. So tertiary markets, just outside major markets, like secondary markets, outside of, so if you look at, you draw a circle around Dallas, look maybe 45, 50 miles outside of Dallas, 45, 50 miles outside of Houston, 45, 50 miles outside of Austin. We've been buying in Des Moines, Iowa since 2015, and there's been a lot of capital coming into Des Moines. Des Moines considered a tertiary market. Look at Tulsa, Oklahoma. There's places in Arkansas that just aren't really trendy, but where you can find value and real cash flow. And I think that could be a way that you're not going to have so much competition from institutional capital that's just chasing, like Maureen talked about, just being able to park money, and maybe they're not looking for the same kind of yield requirements like, the investors that you or I or, Chris is working with.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And, just, follow the infrastructure. That's where the growth is, and just look where are the jobs going. That's pretty much what we all chase, where the jobs are, where the people are. That's where everybody's moving to, the market where the jobs are coming out of. Like, you don't want to go heavy in those markets. So where the jobs are, where the growth is.
Yeah. Love it.
All right. Well, we are coming up at the 30-minute mark, so it's time to wrap up the Q&A. This flew by. Like, we could do these like for hours.
I can't believe how
everyone's loving you. You guys the compliments just keep rolling in.
Yeah. Aww. There was one thing. Someone asked, does Maureen have a master class?
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't, but thank you. No, I don't have a master class, but I've been so busy kind of doing it rather than, and I always tell people, I never mind answering questions, that you just got to grab us or my team. They're good with that kind of stuff. We're always willing to help if you can just snag us, but sometimes we're just hard to catch. That's all. But I would like to eventually do something to give back more. And yeah.
So what is just in general, for people wanting to learn about you, possibly investing with you, what's a good way to learn more about you and your company?
So our website is www.4m. That's M like Mary, REI. So the number 4mrei.com
Okay.
is our website, so they can check us out there.
So 4mrei.com. All right.
Yes. Yep. And then yeah, you could talk to myself or my business partner William. So he's the one I hit the road with, and we ended up buying. What did we buy? 16 deals in 2019. We crushed it. Yeah.
16 deals?
Yeah.
Separate deals.
Yeah. When we were trying to do everything.
So over one a month you were doing?
We were doing 4-packs at once. And the first time we did a 4-pack, like we're saying like, this is crazy.
What does that mean? You put 4 deals together as one syndication?
So we did do some deals, but just closing on them all at once and within a month. So it got a little crazy. We learned a lot about raising money and how to you can't give people 4 options. You got to raise one and then go to the next one. Cause if there's options, people are too confused.
They don't do anything.
They can't make a decision.
It's true. It's true. So, yeah. So I said, just think once we do a 4-pack, how easy it double will be. So then after that, it was easy. And now we don't even think like, oh, do we have a closing coming up? Oh yeah, it's next week. Like it's not even a blip on the radar now. Right. So I guess what doesn't destroy you makes you stronger.
I can't imagine doing 16 large syndications. I mean, it's a lot.
It was a crazy
to just get one done is a lot.
It was a crazy year, but yeah, William is awesome. He's a younger guy, 30 years old. He's when he came in as an acquisitions guy, is a partner now. And just, sometimes you just have to see, what does the company need? What does the team need? What do you need? Right. And so one of the things you have to stay as you're talking to brokers, it's momentum. You want to stay in front of them. So when I was working with my other partner, I was also doing the construction. I was doing, just everything really. And I have a team. It wasn't just me, but I kept getting sidetracked. So it's like when you close on a deal and then you kind of let off pursuit. Mm-hmm. And so William came on originally to just keep up with that. And he did an awesome job. So it's just staying in contact. So having somebody dedicated to that made a huge difference. And that's for the brokers, you just want to stay in touch, right? Figure out what they like to do. That's just get to know them. They may give you a deal just to make you go away. I don't know. I feel sorry for you. I don't know if you're new and starting.
I've never had that. I will take a pity deal any day of the week to go away. So yes, bring that on.
Whatever makes you money. I'll tell you, a good relationship with a broker can just change your life. Like I had one of the brokers out of Atlanta that we just clicked, and we're doing our 13th deal together right now, transaction. Right now we're in the process. So, and them just feeding you and understanding. In fact, that deal we're getting ready to sell, they called me and they said, Maureen, I need an LOI for this amount. And I'm like, what's going on? They're like, trust me, you're going to like it. I'm like, okay. I sent an LOI. Like, so what are we buying, guys? And it was the deal we're buying now. Bought some for 36 a door. We're in it for 54. We're going to exit at like 97 a door. So
wow.
Yeah. Hopefully 100 a door. We're still looking at contracts, but it's knowing that and them knowing you're going to perform. That's all the brokers really want. Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, Maureen, Terrence, thank you guys. So we're going to wrap up here, everyone. We're going to take a quick break, and then we are going to go record a in-depth podcast and talk a little about our story. But I think most importantly, we're going to be talking about a detailed analysis of a deal you did. And as we were prepping for this interview, you're very excited to dive into P&L. So I think in the email you described it as just a beautiful P&L. Is that the right word?
I think it should be it's should be framed. It's beautiful. After I looked at it, it's like, wow. Just
it goes up every month is what that means.
Yeah.
The income goes up every month is the perfect P&L.
Not down ever.
It goes up every month.
It's good.
Yeah. So we're going to talk a lot of details. We'll actually be sharing the P&L on the YouTube video and actually walking through some months and some numbers here and how she can read it. So definitely stay tuned for that. That'll be out in the near future on the Bigger Pockets YouTube channel. Maureen, thank you so much.
Yeah,
our most beloved guest so far, Maureen Miles.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Awesome. Appreciate it, guys.
Bigger Pockets, thank you for joining us. We'll see you soon.